Welcome to Built on Faith Homestead. Today's going to be a rather short but rather informative video. um, we do all kinds of things here, right? We have animals, we have gardens. We like to use firewood to heat our house. We like to we use firewood to cook with. I think you can't make a better flavored food than to cook it with regular old firewood. Doesn't have to be hickory, doesn't have to be applewood, just an old oak firewood just makes an awesome tasting meal. I almost said meat, but I've done all kinds of things on there, and it's all good. Today, though, I want to talk about being prepared. There are lots of things that will help you be prepared in situations and in times where things just don't go quite how they typically operate, right? So as of right this second, you can go to the gas station and you can buy what you need to, or you can go to Walmart, or you can go to the grocery store and pretty much buy what you need to. But while it's still fresh in your mind, I want you to remember the days previous to this where COVID was going crazy, and COVID wasn't, I guess it was, but our reactions was really going crazy. And you couldn't hardly, even if you had money in your pocket, you still couldn't buy a lot of the things at the store. I never will forget when it all first started. We had just had, Melissa was pregnant actually with Leah Joe, and I went to the grocery store for her, and I was so thankful that I went because there was like nothing, right? It just looked like a war zone. And so today I want to talk about being prepared. There's lots of things you can do. You can have everything from your own animals and your own gardens to freeze-dried food to the MRE style, like military rations type foods, to learning wild edibles, to maybe even having stores of food or caches of food hid around your property, buried underground, right? You can do all kinds of stuff. And I'm going to be honest with you, I'm not going to preach against any of that stuff. Yeah, you do what it is that you need to do and what you feel like you should do. Here's one thing I do want to say is if we as Christians, Bible-believing Christians, believe in, if we believe that we're anywhere near the return of the Lord, then the Bible's pretty clear. No matter when you think you're getting raptured out of here, there's going to be sicknesses, and there's ways to be prepared for those sicknesses, and there's going to be famines, and there's ways to be prepared for those famines. And if you believe the Bible, then you believe those things are going to happen. So it's kind of like, it'd be kind of foolish, I think, not to prepare in some way, shape, or form. So I believe that there will be a time where this Antichrist-like figure will rise, and he'll rise to power, and you won't be able to buy or sell or have any sort of financial means without taking his mark. And so, and yes, I believe the church is going to have to endure that time. I know not everybody does. I understand that. But most of you that don't believe that still believe in what's biblically called the beginning of sorrows. And so, which is times of famines and pestilence and all those good things. So what about just those times? What about the times where you still have maybe your job and you can still make some money, and you can make enough money maybe to pay your what I'm going to call bills? And when I mean bills, I mean like you're paying where you're living so you don't lose the place that you live, right? And maybe your vehicle or something like that. So you can do all kinds of things for that, right? That's what the gardens and the animals and those kinds of things are great for. But what about that Antichrist time? What about that time where you can't pay your taxes and you can no longer live on the land that you've owned forever because you can't pay the taxes on that land that you've owned forever? And you have to survive like a homeless individual, right? So then you might want to consider what that next level is for you and how you guys would take care of that. But I wanted to really focus in on this one end of preparedness today because it was made abundantly clear to us today. First aid. You need to have some first aid supplies around. You need to have some wraps, some gauzes, some cleaning, maybe some like hydrogen peroxide, maybe some neosporins type stuff. Know how to, plantain is a wonderful natural neosporin. If you don't have regular neosporin, you can even just put it in your mouth, chew it a little bit. Don't swallow it, just chew it. And then take that chewed up, what I'm going to call cud, and place it down in your wound. It's got lots of antibacterial, antifungal type properties in it. Very good for that kind of stuff. But learn what you can do for first aid and be prepared for first aid. I will tell you what I did today that made us rush around today. Something very simple, something I've done 1,000,001 times and never got hurt. And I did get hurt today. Don't forget about first aid. Now, we have not forgot about first aid. We have got some first aid supplies, but we haven't moved them here yet. And other than just like a box of like little band-aids for like little cuts, right? That you just can't quit, that you cannot make stop bleeding. There we go, there's the words. So I'll show you guys what I did today and why we had to, luckily, bless the Lord, praise the Lord, we live close enough to a little bitty town that's got a Dollar General and a grocery store in it that my wife could run up and get some quick first aid supplies while I hung out with the kids. And I'll show you kind of what happened real quick. And I know Mom watches these videos. Mom, I'm okay. I don't need to go to the hospital. I don't need stitches. This isn't the famous sending you a text message letting you know I've cut my toe off type thing, right? That's not this. But it is something we need to talk about. So here's the stuff we had to go get today. We had to get some ace bandage. We had to go get some gauze. And we had to go get some what I called big boy band-aids, some real band-aids. Because we are smoking some meat today, and we use firewood, as you guys see down there at the bottom of the smoker. And I still had some scrap firewood from this winter left over, and I was busting it down. And for getting it for cooking wood, what I like to do is I'll get it down to pretty small pieces with my splitting maul. Then I'll grab a hatchet and use it kind of like a splitting wedge of an extent of a deal, right? I'll drive it down into the wood, and then I'll hammer the wood down, and I'll get it down into smaller, good, easy, usable cooking wood for us. And that's always went great and fine and dandy. But you do have to be careful, right? You're holding a hatchet, you're holding a piece of wood, and then you're swinging at that piece of wood with a hatchet, and you always hold the wood down below the surface of where you're hitting, and everything's gonna be just fine, right? As long as you hit the piece of wood. Well, what I did, like a big dummy out here in the heat, not thinking today, was I kind of had my hand resting, if you will, on the top piece of that wood, and that meaty part of my thumb was kind of sticking out over the wood a little bit. And I would have been fine if I'd have hit where I was aiming, but I did not hit where I was aiming. I missed, and I hit that kind of meaty part right below the palm of your hand, like where your thumb, or right where the palm of your hand is, where your thumb attaches right to your hand. I hit that meaty part with that hatchet, and I hit it hard. And thank the Lord that hatchet's not that sharp, so it didn't go super deep or anything. It doesn't need stitches. It was about as close as you can get probably to needing stitches without needing stitches. I maybe could have used a stitch or two, but it'll be fine. It'll be just fine. We got it cleaned up. My wife was able to run to the store and get a few things for me. Now, that being said, like I said, because we didn't have some of that stuff. We didn't even have hydrogen peroxide. We had rubbing alcohol, but we didn't have hydrogen peroxide. And so she went and got some of that and some gauze and some wrap and those kinds of things so I can keep that wound clean. So I can take care of it. Now, here's a fun fact. I can take care of my own wounds, and it doesn't really bother me. The blood and all that, it is what it is. You take something like that happening to my wife or my children, what I've learned about myself is I don't handle that very well. I'm okay in the moment most of the time, in the flash bang of the moment, I'm fine. We've had several instances now. So my wife, without getting into too big of detail, she filled up with blood clots after we had Bo, and she lost a bunch of those blood clots at once, and passed out at a gas station, and we had to call an ambulance to come get her and rush her to the hospital, and it was a big ordeal, and it looked like a horror movie in that bathroom, and I did fine in that moment, right? Because I knew something was wrong, and so right, wrong, or indifferent, I just blockaded the bathroom off, made sure there wasn't any other women in there, and I went in there and followed her in there. Knew she was passing out, got her down, hollered, got him to call 911, all those kinds of stuff. Looked like a horror movie in there. I was fine in the moment. It was when I got back out to the car that I got like sweaty and lightheaded and dizzy and those kinds of things. You take my children, something like that happening to my children, I get lightheaded, dizzy, break out in a sweat, and that kind of stuff never bothered me my whole life. But it bothers me now. And in fact, the Lord has helped me a lot on it, because it used to bother me a whole lot more. Like when we first got married and first started having kids, man, something happened to my kids like that, or they want to stick a needle in my kids or whatever, and I just almost hit the ground anymore. And so, right along with first aid is understanding who can do what, right? So Melissa, she can't hardly take me getting hurt. It really bothers her if I get hurt. And she told me today she was all tingly, right, sweaty, all those types of things, when she seen what had happened. However, I was fine. I was like, "Hon, I'm fine. Look at it. It's fine. It's not a big deal." Now, if the same thing would have happened to her, I probably would have hit the ground, right? Like, I may have passed out. I never have passed out. I don't know that I don't know if I ever will, right? But the last when we had Bo, I told him, the nurses asked me, right, does this kind of stuff bother you? And I was like, it has been lately. And they're like, are you going to pass out? And I was like, I really don't know, right? But I didn't. Good Lord took care of it. It was all well. But part of being prepared is knowing your strengths and knowing your weaknesses, right? And so Melissa does fine with the kids. It bothers her with the kids, but that mom, like mama bear adrenaline that the Lord give her, kicks in, and she does just fine. Now me with the kids, like, I'm liable to just look at Melissa and be like, oh, you're gonna have to handle that, right? You have to know your strengths and your weaknesses. You need to know, as part of your being prepared, you need to learn some basic first aid things and some basic wild plants and even like animal fats, like oils and greases maybe you can use to help take care of yourself in a first aid emergency situation. We do have some friends that have been nurses, or are currently nurses, right, that we have talked to about some stuff. I know my mom has quite a bit of first aid knowledge, if nothing else, just from raising me, but she does have quite a bit of first aid knowledge. Melissa is the one that knows a lot of the plants and what they're good for. It's just good to have a general, like, first aid knowledge, and don't let that slip through your preparedness mindset, thought processes, and ideas. Or if you're going to live a lifestyle like we want to live, where you're basically usually 20-30 minutes at least from any major town, hospital, doctor's offices, those kinds of things, then you need to learn at least a few things that you can do in the moment to take care of yourself or somebody else if they get injured around you. Guys, thank you guys for watching. I know it's a short video, but it's an informative one, and probably one of the more important ones. And I don't want to fail in saying, because we feel like this is part of our ministry and part of our work, obviously, I still believe in a miracle working God. And so I still believe that praying, anointing with oil, those kinds of things, I still believe God can reach down and touch in those moments. So not only should you have peroxide maybe, and bandages and gauzes and ace bandages, and maybe understand some things that can take away some pain. Have some things around that can take away some pain, whatever they may be for you. Let me put it that way. Whatever you and the Lord's okay with having around for your pain. It's good. Have all that stuff, right? So Paul wrote to drink a little wine for your ailments, right? For whatever you're like. I believe that some medicine is still good, right? I believe there's a lot of bad medicine out there, and I believe there's a lot more bad medicine than there is probably good medicine today. But learning what you can have around is a good thing. But also make sure that your faith, make sure you are fasting and praying and depending on the Lord, because no matter what, right? So this cut that I've got on my hand now, it's fine. It's still bleeding a little bit, but it's going to bleed as I use my hand some, right? But mostly it's going to be fine. It's going to heal up, all these kinds of things. But like, I'm still going to pray about it, and I'm still going to pray that the Lord heal it up, because I know that, like, infection or anything can set in, and I could be in a real pickle real quick, right? And so don't forget about your first aid. Don't forget about learning to pray about those things. Because remember, once again, Mark of the Beast time shows up. You're not going to be able to go buy bandages and gauze and those kinds of things. Learn how to take care of those things. Maybe have a bumper of those things at your house, a cache of those things at your house. But also, you might need to learn, and we might need to learn how to take care of those things without that stuff. We appreciate you guys for watching, and we'll catch you next time.